it's Zach. Welcome back to the Heroverse. And guys, this will be Riverdale Season 6, Episode 10, called Folk Heroes. This was a very interesting episode. I just got done watching it with my sister Annie. As you guys can see, Annie's not here in the video again. She said, she wasn't feeling so good, so that's why I'm on here doing it, by myself. So I'm going to be, doing the video today. This was a very interesting episode, though, because I was really looking forward to this episode, because in this episode, I knew we were going to get a fight between Parzival and Archie, and it didn't have the outcome I expected. I expected, even if Archie went up against Parzival and somehow Parzival found out about his weakness, because as we all know from what we've seen since we've been back off of, the break from Rivervale, when we came back off the break of Rivervale, we knew Archie had invulnerability, he couldn't be hurt, he had strength, and I was like, okay, he wouldn't be able to get hurt, and we found out his weakness, which was palladium, and I expected, okay, so even if Parzival finds out about the palladium, which I was like, how's that possible? Because the only 3 people that know about his palladium was Betty and Jughead. So I was like, even if they do fight and he ends up getting the palladium, Archie still has the memory and the technique of him boxing, because as we all know, he's boxed before. But the writers say, F it, we're going to make, Archie be a complete idiot in the boxing ring and just have him get dropped by Parzival. I was like, really? I was like, I understand that, and that's my one anger. Like, I have a couple of angers of nonsense in this episode, which, I mean, of course, I expect this because it's Riverdale. They usually like to do nonsensible, writing and big plot holes. So that was, one of the things is, okay, you just threw all technique out the door. So him having palladium just kicked your ass entirely. I understand it takes your ability to not, invulnerability, but it doesn't take it away that you could still beat his ass by you having the boxing technique. It's not like Kryptonite where you get weak at the knees and you can't move and whatever. No, you still have your technique of your boxing skills that you've had for all these years, and you're sure as shit stronger than Parzival, so I expect you to beat Parzival, but that's not what the writers do. The writers make it to the point where, Parzival, Jughead's plan is that he wants Archie to, he wants everybody to rally behind Archie, hence the whole folk hero thing, and because of Parzival wanting to have a statue in Pickens Park of his ancestor, General Pickens, which, as we all know, General Pickens, literally slaughtered a whole bunch of people that founded Riverdale and took over Riverdale, and that's why they're like, we're not here for this. And of course, Alice and Uncle Frank are just sitting there, all, like drones being controlled by Parzival, which still pisses me off, how Uncle Frank is able to be, tricked by his bullshit. I mean, I'm shocked about that. You know what I mean? That he's using them, especially using Uncle Frank. I understand that in a way Alice is still grieving over Polly, and that's why maybe she was able to be taken over. But even then, I'm like, how were you able to be taken over by Parzival? But of course, they're trying to write this villain, write people that are easily they're easily being able to be taken over, that are going through grief in a way, or there's something, you know what I mean, there's something that they went in their lives that they're easily able to be, mind controlled, because Jughead ends up finding out in this episode that there is a way to stop Parzival from taking over their minds by people, focusing on the people that really, keep them grounded and keep them tethered, that will make it so Parzival can't take over their minds. And we've seen that, in this episode, because, again, the whole point is to go up against Parzival, to make them not go along with the whole General Pickens idea, and Tabitha's not on board with it. Tony's no longer on the board because, again, Parzival took, Tony's seat on the board after last week's episode. And I was like, okay, so, she's not on board, which is great. Somebody that's still resisting out of the group that's left that are on the Riverdale board, I think that's called, the Riverdale board or whatever. And I was like, okay, she's still keeping them grounded enough where he can't fully have what he wants because there's somebody resisting on the board still, and they all have to agree on it. I was like, okay, that's good. And, Archie's idea is, Jughead's idea is, okay, well, what if you set the world record for you being the most invulnerable or whatever, or something like that, and show your brute strength and have you be the strongest person and the most invulnerable person on Earth. So we have somebody to come there, and, they're everybody's there that, pretty much to, root for Archie in the moment of, him showing that, he could be, he could be the new face of Riverdale. He could be somebody that, somebody that everybody, rallies behind. He could be the true face of Riverdale, not Parzival Pickens, ancestor, General Pickens, somebody that was, messed up and is the old, and what we remember Riverdale not to want to be again. So you could be the new face of what Riverdale should be. And of course, Archie's like, okay, like not really like going along with it, saying, I don't know about that. And he's like, this is so perfect though, because we need people to rally behind you, and this will get people to want to turn on Parzival and know that he is wanting to do wrong and not wanting to do good. I was like, it's a good idea of a plan. But when we get to the moment where like he's doing the whole, breaking the record or whatever, setting a record for the, for the book of world records and all that stuff, he's pretty much laying on nails, and he has no marks on his back. He's getting hit in the stomach with a sledgehammer. He's getting trapped in a freezer. And I'm thinking to myself, everybody should know by now, right when you're getting up from the nails, that you have abilities. Hell, when you get hit in the stomach with a sledgehammer about like five times, I'm like, that's a big plot hole that like people aren't that dumb where they should realize that there's something up with Archie. Hell, Veronica, that should have been an instant, light switch for Veronica, that, oh my god, like something's up with Archie, that he's not bleeding, he's not, he made it look like he was struggling, but I'm sorry, no person's going to endure that. I was like, I'm not believing this for a minute. If I was me, especially, at least they have comic books in this world of Riverdale, you're telling me that no one's questioning that, not even, like, Veronica. At least the people that know about the weirdness in Riverdale, like Veronica, she was a part of knowing about all the weird things that went on around Riverdale, and really it was in tune with the group of Betty, Jughead, and Archie. She should know that there's something up with Archie, but she never realizes that in this entire episode. I was like, really? Like, really? And then the next thing you know, since, he set the record, but the really, like, to get his trophy for setting the record, he has to, he said most durable, which he got that, like, for durability, like, you know what I mean? But he needs to do it for the strongest man, so he has to go up against, Cale Kelly, which, as we know, Cale, as Katie Keene's old boyfriend, he's, like, a really famous boxer. He plays at Madison Square Garden and all that stuff, and he's just a really famous boxer, and it's, like, I think he asked, I forget how he got in connections with Cale, probably through Veronica, to get to Katie to ask Cale if he'd even want to do it. But, that was very interesting to me that, Cale came to do this, this fight for the world record or whatever, so Archie could get his thing. But, even Archie's like, I don't want to fight Cale because I could hurt him. Jughead's like, you don't have to hurt him or anything. You just need to stand up in the ring and make it look like, to the point of, like, you don't win, like, by giving the most hits. And like, Cale wins by giving the most hits, but it'll be like a Rocky sort of situation where people will root for you, but even though you won't win, they'll still, like, they like the underdog story, like Rocky and stuff. I was like, okay, makes sense. And of course, I was like, Parzival was going to make it, so he's the one that fights Archie. Clearly, from what we saw from the sneak peek to this episode, I'm like, okay, so there's at a point where something's going to happen to Cale, that, Parzival's going to get his way in making Archie want to fight him. So he makes Cale pretty much walk out in the middle of a highway, and Cale gets hit. He's out of commission. So, of course, Parzival calls, Archie, pretty much saying, oh, I didn't do anything. And he's like, oh, we were just talking about you. Archie's like, we were just talking about you, jerk, or whatever. Like, what did you do? And he's like, oh, what are you talking about? I didn't do anything. Of course, making it sound like he's, like, all innocent and stuff. And he's like, how about we make a deal? How about I'm the one that fills in for Cale, and if I win, like, you're gonna put up the statue of my great, General Pickens, like, you're gonna put up that statue. You're gonna do it personally because you were against it. He's like, okay, bet. But he's like, if I win, you're gonna leave town, and you're never gonna come back. And I'm just happy to do this because I want to beat your ass. And I was like, okay, Archie has this in the bag because he knows technique. Even if Parzival knows about his weakness, he has the technique. He'll beat Parzival. But that's not what happens. He ends up getting his ass kicked. It shouldn't matter if you have palladium or not, dude. That involves your invulnerability and your strength. You're still a strong dude, but you're just fit, and that you have the technique of boxing. You fought bigger guys than that ass. I was like, how are you getting beat right now? And it's like all technique got thrown out the door. Archie, I don't know if it's like the writer trying to tell us that, or Archie just he didn't have to put any technique in to beat him. He just wanted to just stand and take the blows and occasionally hit once in a while. I don't know. But that's shitty writing, and that annoys me, that Archie should have won that fight. And it could have been like Parzival like didn't go with and just stayed in town and not trusted Archie's wishes or not trusted the agreement that Archie made about leaving town if he won. You know what I mean? I just feel like I don't believe that he would have lost that fight. I think that's bullshit. Going on with I liked what was going on with Cheryl. Cheryl, like her, not realizing that she was causing people to combust. Apparently it was called combustion syndrome or I forget what it was called, like combustion something. It's like where it's a rare thing where like somebody is able to make people is able to make fire and stuff. Which Betty ends up finding that out through another agent in the FBI that there's this rare thing where people are actually able to have fire starting abilities. And she was explaining it, saying, we all have, heat within us. We all create heat, but there's something where people go through so much trauma that they can actually come up with this rare, condition where it's like combustion something. I don't even know. Name drop it down in the comments below, but it's like you're able to make people combust, which I was like, that's very far-fetched, where it's like, I don't believe this. It all boils back to, I wish they would have embrace the comic book stuff in the beginning, because it's very hard to believe that people know about this rare thing but we've grounded the world so much until recently. So it's like, I don't believe it, but I like how it's like, okay, like they're giving an explanation for it. So I was like, all right, oh, whatever. But I was like, people have went through a lot of grief around Riverdale. I'm shocked none of it happened before until now with Cheryl, especially Cheryl. She's had a whole bunch of grief before that I'm shocked it's never happened before until now. That all goes back to the writers. I feel like do not know what they're doing, and that's why that's why they're doing it now. Which again, I'm happy that they're fully going into this comic book stuff, that they're fully going comic book with the Riverdale stuff. I'm happy now, but I wish they would have done this in the beginning so this stuff would make sense now that we're getting it. So but I do like how she has abilities. I think that's amazing. I think that's cool. I like how that's how she's able. That's why it's not Abigail doing this, because Abigail's clearly trapped in the casing, so it's not her. It's actually Cheryl getting the abilities, and it's the trauma of her being trapped in the illusion that Abigail set while Abigail was in control of Cheryl's body. That was the thing that kind of broke it, where she is manifested these abilities, which I do think is cool. And there is plot holes, again, by them not doing the full-on comic book stuff in the beginning. It just makes it hard for me to believe, you know what I mean? Because, we didn't start out this way of the mystical and fully going comic book. We started out with the groundedness of just serial killers. So it's kind of like, I wish they would have started then, because this would make a lot more sense of people manifesting, powers of making fire, and people getting super strength and all that stuff. It would have made more sense in a way if we went with just the comic book stuff. I mean, Sabrina went full on comic book, of course, because we dealt with magic and everything in the beginning. It wasn't something that just happened out of nowhere. So I mean, I don't know. I really wish we would have started this in the beginning, but I'm not really oh, this sucks, because I'm happy that we're doing it now. Because I feel like, if we're going to do it now, if we stay doing this, I'll be like, okay, we can expect this now. It won't be for someone to be like, oh, what the hell's going on? So I hope we keep this up with the whole mystical and everything and all that, so people aren't really like, oh, what the heck? But I feel like they should have done this in the beginning, so that way people wouldn't have dropped off and would have been like, okay, this doesn't make any sense. You know what I mean? Because we were grounded before, now we're doing people having, combustion powers, and people are getting super strength and everything. But I feel like this all ties back to the connections to Riverdale and the plot line not being done with, I feel like, because as we all know, the Jughead in Riverdale is writing for our universe, and I feel like there's a reason that the sign where, because Parzival also wanted to change the logo for Riverdale, and it's the same logo for Riverdale. So I feel like there's so many things, and also Tony having the deja vu of that caseworker coming in to Tony's house to talk about baby Anthony and how baby in the homing for baby Anthony. It was very deja vu for Tony, and I feel like there's so many things. I feel like this villain maybe knows about Riverdale and wants to combine the two universes so it becomes one. I don't know. All I know is I feel like that's not a coincidence that the sign for the new sign for Riverdale looks the same. It just got rid of the whole Pop's chocolate chop thing, and Tony takes offense to that, and Tony's like, or not Tony, I meant I forget her name. Tabitha takes offense that Parzival wants to put up the thing of General Pickens, but also wants to change the sign that doesn't have Pops in it anymore, and pretty much is because again we know that Tabitha's the only one standing, in front, and standing in the way besides Archie, Betty, and Jughead. But the only one really standing in Parzival's way is Tabitha's the only one on the board that's left that really has control, or over, really not, because they all have to agree on something, is the only one that's really resisting his newfound future for Riverdale. So I love how he's kind of going after her, because we've seen him going after everybody, but now we saw him go after Tony last week, but now he's going after Tabitha, trying to pretty much get Tabitha to turn on Veronica, because I guess Veronica is going to be talking to Uncle Frank and talking to Alice about having a Babylonium sign on the highway, and Tabitha thinks this is the only way for me to I guess Parzival is making it sound like to Tabitha, oh, you could still have a sign, but you have to fight on Veronica about that, because she's having a sign for Babylonium, or wanting to have a sign for Babylonium for our new Riverdale. And if you want to stay relevant, you need to fight Veronica on that, and pretty much trying to get Tabitha to fight Veronica and have them go against each other, because we end up finding out in this episode that he's trying to convince Veronica that he's a good dude, Parzival, pretty much but also trying to get Veronica to go turn on Tabitha. He wants people to turn on one another, so he sounds like he's the good guy, and he's just trying to help people out, which is good villain, tactics, but it's also at the fact that Veronica should not fall for his bullshit, when Veronica knew from the jump that he made somebody kill himself in her, in Babylonium, her, casino. So I was like, you shouldn't trust them to begin with. But it also boils down to Jughead, Betty, and Archie not telling Veronica what's going on. I find that weird, that she's been a part of this group for how long, and you're going to keep it from her. And also, you want people to not get mind controlled, so why wouldn't you want to tell Veronica? She was been a part of your group for such a long time. Why are you keeping her out of the loop that he has mind control? He's controlling people, on top of the fact of you guys having abilities. I know Tabitha knows that Jughead has abilities, but does she know Archie and Betty have abilities? Does she know that Parzival has the ability to control people's minds? I think not. I feel like she just thinks that he's just a normal dude causing trouble, and I feel like Archie and all them should really fill everybody in on what Parzival's plans are, because I feel like if they explain to them and they show, Alice and, Uncle Frank and Veronica their abilities, they would believe that, once showing them their abilities, that they would believe that Parzival is actually able to control people's minds. I just feel like it's the lack of communication, that they claim that they want to help people, but they're not telling the people that can really believe them and to really get that dude out of Riverdale. I feel like that's one of the reasons why they're having so much trouble. I feel like if Archie would have told Uncle Frank about his abilities, he would have believed him about Parzival when he can control people's minds. And he would have been able to tell, especially because when Parzival came in to try to, take over Archie's mind when he was setting up the ring for the fight against Kale, you know what I mean? Archie was able to break out of it when he focused on, why am I blanking Archie's father's name right now? On Mr. Andrews, you know what I mean? So you know what I mean? It's just, so it makes no sense to me that, on Fred, there we go, on Fred Andrews' picture, on his dad's picture. So I feel like if Parzival tried taking over Alice or tried taking over Uncle Frank, they would hear that of him, of Parzival in their heads, and then they would snap out of it, and they would know for sure that Archie and all them are right, and this is actually real. Those are big plot holes to me that I just make no sense, that kind of are really annoying me right now. But I'm still enjoying it. But it all goes back to the fact that we all need to expect that Riverdale does this. It does plot holes. The writing doesn't make sense. But I'm gonna be honest with you. It's this is the best story we've gotten in a very long time. I think, hell, probably the best story of Riverdale, at least in my personal opinion. I do like the Black Hood storyline, but I feel like I like this a lot more because of the powered stuff. But I just don't like how the writers did Archie dirty, where it's they threw all of his technique out the door and made it he didn't know how to box at all, and he depended on his strength and vulnerability, when that wasn't the case. He knew how to fight. He should have won that fight. I think it's stupid. But going on to, that's all going on, Veronica and, she's I guess when, Veronica is there, Tabitha shows up to, I think it was at Alice's house, where Uncle Frank was, and so was Parzival, the head of the boards were there to talk about the sign and who was going to get the sign at the highway leading into Riverdale. And of course, Veronica won as I expected, but I was like, that makes no sense. But I mean, it does make sense, because I understand Uncle Frank and Alice were against it in last week's episode. They wanted nothing to do with her casino. But of course, Parzival is controlling Uncle Frank and Alice. So that way it works in the favor of him trying to get under Tabitha's skin, because Tabitha's the only person standing in his way besides Archie, Betty, and Jughead. So I was like, it makes sense. I was like, okay, but I was like, Veronica should be smart enough to realize, oh, they weren't on with this before. Why are they on with this now? I want to do some research on why this is, or like look into this. Especially since how, like, she should have questioned how, Parzival was able to take Tony's spot. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like Veronica's smarter than this, and it upsets me what they're doing with her character and how she's not picking up these things. Because we've seen it. Veronica's smart. She knows when shit's weird. She knows about how Parzival's sus, but, like, she's not questioning why Uncle Frank and Alice, like, changed their minds so quickly over a night about them wanting to have her sign up, or even them wanting to do anything with Babylonium. So that just makes no sense to me. But of course, Tony, and Tabitha talks to Tony about, like, she's going to be taking business away from us. I don't want Pops to be irrelevant. I don't want, Pop's Chocolate Shop to just, like, go away and be shut down. We've been here for years. And we end up finding out when they end up going to, Veronica's, Babylonium party or whatever. She ends up having sliders and tater tots and shot milkshakes. And I love Tabitha's like, I'm not doing this. Meaning, like, no, like, if she's gonna do this whole crap with us, and rub it in our face. When I understand that's not what Veronica was trying to do in the beginning. She just she was just happy and that she was getting a sign. But I feel like she should have looked into it more. On the fact that they just changed their mind so quickly, especially after knowing that something is up with, Parzival. So that was very interesting to me, where, she fights fire with fire and says, Tony, that this would be putting you out of business too with the White Worm. And you know what I mean, and you're trying to renovate and trying to make a new name for yourself, and that's essentially what Tony. I mean, I feel like Tony wasn't really thinking in this moment, because she ends up, she's like, oh, there's an idea, like, Tabitha's like, okay, if we serve booze, from the White Worm down below, and then down below we can put some slot machines down there, and we can also serve, I think she said we can, I forget what she did, like, they're just making a balance of, like, oh, slot machines down below, serving booze up above, so they kind of benefit off of each other, and kind of can compete with Babylonium. So which was a very clever idea, and she's like, I think there's a way for us to bring in more people also, where we kind of, like, do, like, a kind of like a revamp of I think it was, like, the White Worm. No, it's not the White Worm dance. It's kind of the Serpent Dance. We could do, like, a kind of like a revamp on the Serpent Dance, like a new take on it, where it's like she was bringing in stripping as a way to do it, which I feel like I don't see how that's a revamp, because that's exactly what it was to get into, like, the tradition for the girls getting into the serpents. They had to do the Serpent Dance. At least that's why I think that's, if I remember, like, that's how, like, girls initially got, into the serpents, is they had to do the Serpent Dance. At least that's what I think. But I was like, that's not much of a change. You're doing exactly what the Serpent Dance is, besides this time you're singing. But I think, didn't also Betty sing when she did it? I don't quite remember. That kind of confused me. But Fangs wasn't too happy that she was doing that, saying, oh, this doesn't look good, that we're trying to have full custody of baby Anthony and you're doing this. No, dude. Let her do her. There's nothing wrong with really what she's doing. You know what I mean? Like, she wants to do this. It's the fact of, like, I highly doubt that's making Tony look bad to get full custody of baby Anthony. It's the fact that you set it in motion when you were smuggling guns in the house with baby Anthony. That's what set it all in motion, to even make Kevin want to even do that. And again, I feel like that wasn't just Kevin's doing. I feel like, again, Parzival Pickens has a control of, Sheriff Keller, Kevin, everybody. It seems like, Uncle Frank, Alice, everybody that, like, the big people that really can, like, make our characters, like, life a living hell and make it really hard for our characters to do anything. He's taken over their minds. And I feel like, it just doesn't, like, it's not, him making it sound like it was Tony's fault, making it, oh, we're trying to fight for full custody of baby Anthony and you're doing this. No, dude, that's the least of anybody's problems. It's the fact that it's probably your actions is what's going to screw up her getting baby Anthony. It's what set everything in motion, is you keeping guns, wanting to fight the goalies, when that's not what she wanted to do. She wanted to work something out with, Twyla Twist. Like, he did that, Fangs. And that's why I'm like, nah, dude, you can't be coming in here and making that sound like, oh, she's doing something wrong. No, bro. Like, I was like, no. That was stupid writing to me, too. I feel like Tony should be like, no, it's not my fault. Like, the only reason we have to fight for custody of baby Anthony is you're wanting to fight the goalies. And also, you keep, smuggling guns in the house. You know what I mean? Like, wanting to fight the goalies. You know what I mean? Like, it's your fault. And I feel like, in a way, my sister didn't finish last week's episode. She wasn't quite sure what was going on. She's like, oh, Fangs is angry because, she's doing this or whatever. I'm like, no, he has a right to be angry because, you know what I mean? One, they're broken up. At least that's what I think at least that's how it felt in last week's episode. One, they're broken up. Two, it's his fault that she has to fight for custody of baby Anthony in the first place because that's what sparked Kevin's fears. At least I don't think Kevin, I feel like that's so out of character for Kevin, so that's why I feel like he's being mind controlled. So I feel like it wasn't Kevin's really something that just our Kevin would normally do, but I feel like he's being controlled by Parzival Pickens because last week's episode he was trying to get at Tony, trying to ruin Tony's life essentially because she was on the list of people. So literally, I don't know. I thought that was stupid that he came in there acting like she was doing something wrong. But yeah, I mean, other than that, I liked the episode, but there was a lot of problems with the episode. But I don't know. I don't know how, and then we end up finding out Parzival Pickens was able to find out Archie's weakness because, he used Alice to get into Betty's room when she was half asleep, when she was sleeping and she kind of woke up, and that's why she, it makes sense that he would want to go in when she was sleeping because you're not fully, your brain is turned off when you're sleeping, and then when you wake up, your brain is starting to boot up. So it's kind of it makes sense. You're in a vulnerable place right now. He could get in your head right now. She's not thinking about somebody that could keep her tethered. It made sense, but I was like, come on. I was like, really? I was like, oh my god. It's it frustrates me. Not gonna lie. Also, people have the problem that Jughead was fully ready to beat the crap out of Parzival Pickens, and you just wanted to just fight him. I'm gonna be honest, it makes perfect sense that they would just want to beat the shit out of this dude because he's I feel like that's the only way to either beat the crap out of him or take him out completely to get this dude out because he's not just gonna walk away. I don't think so. I don't think anybody's gonna scare him out. I think he needs to be taken out. I'm gonna be totally honest. I don't see this going any other way where it's someone has to take him out because it's think about it. It all boils back to someone needed to take out Hiram, which someone did, and it kind of, at least as far as we know, which I feel like I wish someone would have done that sooner because he made a lot of, harm. He caused a lot of harm on people, and he made a lot of mayhem. And I feel like people should have took him out. You know what I mean? I feel like he's one of those villains, kind of like Hiram, when you don't he's not easily going to be scared. You need to take him out. Some people, you know what I mean? You gotta take out, you know what I mean? And that's when he's one of those dudes. I don't see it where he's gonna get scared and want to leave Riverdale. So I mean, I'm not gonna lie. I mean, if someone was taking over people I loved or whatever, and and especially people that had control of a town and stuff, the only way that you're gonna think is we got to take this dude out. What else are we supposed to do? He has the police on his side. He has the town on his side. We got to take him out. We're the only ones that, we're the only defense for our town. We got to take him out. So, I mean, it's not too far-fetched that they would just want to take him out. But at the same time, I understand, you know what I mean? It's a little out of character. I feel like not really, because we've seen Jughead at points where, he's cut off that one girl's serpent tattoo. We've seen Jughead pretty angry and violent. We've seen it. So, I mean, it's not that far-fetched. So I don't know. I'm really enjoying this storyline. He's playing a really good villain. It's just Veronica should know that something is up. You know what I mean? And not only that, but the way and it all boils back to the writers. They're writing Veronica's character like this. They're writing Archie throwing out all the technique from all the boxing technique that he's learned throughout the years out the window. They're doing these stupid things, and it's oh my god. It's you guys are I'm loving the story, but you guys are losing me when you do stupid shit like this. When you're making it sound like Veronica doesn't you're making Veronica, that she's not smart enough to know what's going on or even want to look into it. It's why are you doing that to her character? Why are you making Archie's character act like he's never boxed in his life before? It frustrates me. I'm annoyed about all that. But other than that, I thought it was a really good episode. I like the way he's playing the villain aspect. I mean, it was so genius to go in there and do that. I was like, okay, it's good that he's really doing anything and everything that he can to really make sure he wins this. I feel like he's the best villain we've had so far, besides the Black Hood. I'm really liking this. I'm really enjoying it. I just want to know now that Archie lost and he had to put up the statue. It makes Archie look bad. That he kind of had to, to do this. It makes him look bad, especially after he was against putting up the statue to begin with. They don't know the deal that Archie made with Parzival. And they don't know. The only one that knows that is Parzival and Archie. And now, you know what I mean? So it's kind of like, it makes Archie look bad. It makes me wonder, how are they going to get people back on Archie's side? It's like, what are they going to do? And also, a thing that really annoyed me too is common sense also, but I keep having to remind myself it's Riverdale. They're not going to do things that make sense. But like, if you knew this piece of palladium, this rare piece of palladium could take away your abilities, wouldn't you want to destroy it or melt it down or something, or bury it, or do something? Wouldn't you want to do something like that? Or hell, why didn't Betty take it when she was driving across wherever and then circling back around to Riverdale? Why didn't she put it somewhere outside of town? So at least he had a drive to do that and couldn't at least come back in time to fight Archie or something. You know what I mean? It's like, I wish they would have thought of that a little bit more, because I feel like the characters, that would be common sense for them to either destroy the rock. Because again, it's rare. That's like, there's only a couple of pieces that people have found in Riverdale, and it seems like it only happens in Riverdale. Why didn't they just destroy it? I just don't get that. It's like, it makes no sense. Superman would have that common sense to destroy something if it was like a couple of pieces of kryptonite. He would destroy it, or have somebody destroy it. I don't know. It's just dumb to me. But guys, that was the video. Literally, again, here, if you're new to the channel, subscribe to the channel, put those notifications, like this video. I would love to have you guys here, a part of the fam, a part of the channel. We're all about spreading love, positivity, and motivation. And guys, we are almost yet again to 500 subscribers, so I would really yet appreciate it again if you guys subscribe to the channel, put those notifications, and like this video. Let me know if you're new to the channel. And if you subscribe to the channel, because I will welcome you to the fam. Not only that, let me know if I missed anything, and let me know how you guys feel about what I talked about. You know what I mean? It's kind of like, it makes me annoyed that the writers write our characters like this. You know what I mean? It's like, how do you make it where you focus so much on boxing for Archie, and again, you clearly specified it doesn't make him like Archie fall to his knees weak if he has palladium, if Superman had kryptonite there and he falls on the ground, he's weak, he can't even stand up to even fight. It just takes away his invulnerability and his strength. He still has normal strength. He still has the boxing capabilities. He should have beat them. That makes no sense. If you wanted to have the moment where, if you wanted to have a moment that it's like, oh, Archie couldn't stand a fight at all if he has the palladium towards him, and it would be an easy win for Parzival. Make it where it's kind of like a kryptonite thing, and if it has any palladium near him, he falls on the ground weak to his stomach and can't even stand. Do something like that, so at least it makes common sense. And the whole, again, with the white worm thing, with Fangs coming in there, that made no sense. And also with the whole Veronica thing, not knowing that anything is weird, and you know what I mean, wanting to ask questions, and also our characters not filling in Veronica. Let me know how you feel about that. Along with, I forgot about, what is it? Reggie being kicked out of Babylonium because Parzival pointed out to Veronica that he stole slot machines for his father, so he would be entertained for at least the couple of months that he's going to be living, because he has still yet to tell Veronica that his dad is only has a couple of months to live. And the only reason that Reggie is doing this, or Reggie's even in this situation, is because of his father pretty much losing the a Mantle Automotives to those people in a bet of I can't even think of it right now what it is, the name of the game, but he lost it in a bet, and that's the only reason why he's stuck in that situation. That's a way of he couldn't buy it back, but he could let them use it. You let them use the place, and also have the slot machines there, and let him have somebody to play with, at least so he could be happy in the moments of the months he has to live. He needs to fill in Veronica, because I feel like if he would have filled in Veronica, none of this would be happening. Where it's they kind of he. You know what I mean? That he's not, because it all boils down he didn't tell her, and that's what sparked all this. If he would have told Veronica why he's letting him waste money, is because he only has a couple of months to live, and that makes him happy. Simple as that. He could have just told Veronica that, and everything would have been okay. You know what I mean? He would have never been in the decision, never have been in that, Reggie's father would have never been in the position to even lose the place and put it up for whatever if he didn't go somewhere else when Veronica kicked him out. So I feel like she wouldn't have kicked him out if Reggie would have just told Veronica the truth. but it's the writing. Things need to happen. They need to split their ways, because I feel like that one dude that is Abuelita's, that takes care of Abuelita is going to be dating Veronica. I feel like that's what they're trying to set up here. We didn't see him in this episode, but I think we'll see him more, especially since she doesn't have, Reggie a part of the Babylonium anymore. And those dudes that, Reggie's hanging out with said, why don't you take Babylonium back? I mean, leave the girl, but take the casino back. And he might do something that he's going to regret taking it back. Hell, I could see where he tries to do that. Veronica's dating that one dude, and that dude kills Reggie or something. I could see something like that happening. I don't know. Those are just theories right there. But guys, again, that was the video. And guys, yet again, I hope everybody has a great day, a safe day, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace.